semiconductors in just 14 weeks. Valencia estimates that in the first 2 years, 120 people will be able to graduate and immediately find work at the NeoCity Technology District while taking on virtually no debt. Valencia College has a proven track record of success. Across their training programs, 95% of students graduate, and on average, 81% are employed in their field within just 1 month. So as we look forward to some of the challenges that our country faces, the COVID-19 pandemic showed just how reliant we are on foreign supply chains, particularly supply chains coming out of China, which is not our friend. When you look at the semiconductors, we have so much that goes on in Taiwan, which again is a great ally of ours, but man, they are under an immense amount of pressure and threats from the Communist Party of China. The more that can be done here in the United States and in Florida, that gives more opportunities for people in Florida, of course, which is very important, but it does strengthen our economic resiliency and it does strengthen our national security. So this is really something that's important. It's something that we're happy to be supporting at the level in the state of Florida. We think we can do even more, that this is just the beginning. We want to continue to do that going forward. And so I will present these checks. Which one do we have first?
We got Osceola County.
Okay, Osceola. Who wants to come up and... Okay, here we go. Next one. Valencia. Yeah, both get in here. Yeah. And if you see how probably the best way people have seen how the semiconductor has affected their everyday lives is what's happened if you want to buy a car or a used car even. You know, there are people now, because of the shortage of the semiconductors with the auto industry, I mean, the new cars, they sell immediately at sticker price, sometimes even higher, but they're selling at less volume just because less is being produced. But then, because there's not as many new cars, there's a huge demand for used cars. There's actually people whose cars appreciate in value now. It used to always be said the minute you take a new car off a car lot, it goes down in value. It's not a good investment. It really hasn't been historically. Now you actually have people paying more, and people are making money off selling used cars. That's all tied back to what's happening with these semiconductors and with the chips. And so, and I think that will probably work itself out in the somewhat near future from the people I've talked to in that industry. But just think if something were to happen with Taiwanese production, you know, it could throw this whole thing into a tailspin. So we have some vulnerabilities in this regard, and what we're doing here, I think, today recognizes that, and I'm excited that Florida is able to be part of the solution. So I want to be able to have Dane Eagle come up and say a few things.
Well, I want to thank the governor for his work and what he's doing with the governor's Job Growth Grant Fund. Today is a prime example of how we can use this to better Floridians and the lives of all Floridians. The Job Growth Grant Fund is intended to invest in infrastructure and also workforce development across the entire state. Today we're doing both. And not only that, we're creating jobs not just for Floridians, we're creating jobs that would otherwise be shipped overseas with the government of the state. So $6 million going to Osceola County to create the southern corridor here to NeoCity. We're at this beautiful building. This is just the beginning of what NeoCity is going to produce, and that is exciting. That's going to support over 500 jobs right here, and then $3.7 million going to Valencia College to help train people to do the jobs that are going to be created here. That is exciting. I want to thank the governor for his work in promoting this. We have more to do, so if you've got, if you're a county or a state college that is interested in the governor's Job Growth Grant Fund, shoot them an application. We're going to help vet it and make sure that we are investing in the right projects to help Floridians, and we're very excited about the future here. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Dr. Brad Ferguson.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I'm very excited to welcome Governor DeSantis and other distinguished visitors here today as we acknowledge the Job Growth Grant Fund today. So my name is Brad Ferguson. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of our facility here at Skywater, Florida. Ever since we started operations in January of 2021 at the height of the pandemic. So Skywater chose Florida as the state to make our very first site expansion outside of our headquarters in Minnesota for many good reasons. First, the vision that Osceola County leaders like Rep. Fred Hawkins, Commissioner Brandon Arrington, and County Manager Don Fisher had to create NeoCity and the Center for Neovation, which provided an opportunity that fit right within our business model of innovation. Second, the support of the local educational institutions, including President Plinsky from Valencia College, to partner on workforce development and ensure that we could tap into and source the knowledge workers that we need for semiconductor advanced manufacturing as we look to grow our presence here in Florida. And last but most importantly, it was clear from our first meetings that the state of Florida had a recipe for success with the business-friendly climate set by Governor DeSantis and the many stakeholders who made a point of welcoming us into the community. So I'd like to thank the Governor, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, and Enterprise Florida for their foresight in selecting to award this money, which will encourage other businesses like Skywater to focus on this region as a destination for expansion in semiconductor advanced manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chancellor Henry Mack.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. Henry Mack, Department of Education. I help oversee all 28 Florida college system institutions, in addition to all career, technical, and adult education and training programs across the state of Florida through our districts and 48 technical colleges. And so, on behalf of Commissioner Richard Corcoran, I want to thank you, Governor, and Secretary Eagle for your commitment to career and technical education. And I'd like to begin maybe on that point. I cannot overstate enough how much your leadership, Governor, has meant to the field and to the teachers and faculty and staff in CTE since day one. Upon issuing Executive Order 1931, we've been able to elevate career and technical education as a viable option for students. No longer is it something opposed to traditional academics or university life. That's great for many, but CTE can be an equally awesome and viable, economically prosperous pathway for so many, and that is evidenced by the commitment of Valencia and our school districts, such as Osceola, to double down on career and technical education in and around our state. In point of fact, at the sub-baccalaureate level, we're seeing evidence that AS holders, Associate of Science degree holders, certification holders, or industry certification holders, such as students that will benefit from this job growth grant, earn the same median lifetime earnings as all baccalaureate degree holders that graduate from universities. In other words, again, career and technical education is not something that should be thought of as lesser than, but an awesome opportunity for residents, adults and students, and everyone included, to get on a pathway to prosperity. I'll end again by thanking you. At the beginning of the pandemic, you had set aside $35 million for rapid credentialing. This helped incentivize the colleges and the districts to scale these kinds of high-value, high-wage opportunities for underemployed or unemployed adults impacted by the pandemic. And that grant alone helped us witness 17,000 certifications on top of 60,000 graduates across the state of Florida graduating from CTE. That is higher than pre-pandemic levels. Thanks again to your investment and your leadership. And so on behalf of Dr. Plinsky and the entire Florida College System Institution presidents, thank you for your investment. Secretary Eagle, thank you again for your support of workforce education.
And one of the things, if we can continue to expand what is produced here in Florida and manufacture in this regard, we would like to be able to have some auto manufacturing. We see that there's a list throughout the Sun Belt that have been able to do that in states like South Carolina and in Tennessee and Alabama. We would like to be able to do that. You know, we have talked with some companies over the years, but I think this could be kind of an added benefit, both in terms of what's being produced, which is important for that industry, but then also just the emphasis that it shows that we have placed on career and technical education, which is really something that's going to be increasingly important as we go on. So we have to start standing up as Floridians and Americans. We cannot be captive. Key sectors of our economy should not be captive to some of these foreign nations, particularly outfits like the Communist Party of China. And then even when you have allies like Taiwan, how that could impact, if there was a disruption there, could throw a lot of this for the loop, even more than we've already seen over the past year and a half. So the more we have this capacity within our own country, but particularly within our own state here in Florida, the more opportunities there's going to be for people, and the more secure both our economic supply chains will be and our national security. So this is an important announcement. I think it's going to make a big difference, and really this is just the beginning. We'll be doing a lot more in the coming weeks, months, and years. Okay, happy to take any questions.
Governor, can I talk to us about what language you're giving the companies that come here to bring their business, but also kind of face what's going on with the kind of the Omicron variants and the way that the coronavirus.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of the pandemic, I think businesses have liked Florida because we've been rational. We have not tried to do heavy-handed mandates. I mean, there were some places that had production shut down, construction shut down in parts of this country. We never did. We had construction. People were building homes. They were doing all that stuff. And so I think that that's something that they very much appreciate. Obviously, we have a better tax and business climate than many of those other places. But I can tell you that when companies come and discuss different things, and we're talking with a number of companies that would bring in additional manufacturing, not necessarily this chip, but other good stuff. And, you know, there's certain pros, tax, all this stuff that's available. Other states do that too. But I think where we have really opened eyes for folks is when we go through, since I became governor, what have we done for workforce education, and how really flexible our state college system has been. If they're in a certain community where there's a certain sector of the economy that's taking off, they're making sure that they have programs that can provide people with the skills they need to be able to do well there. We've already had state colleges, like prospectively, we'll talk with companies and they'll say, oh yeah, if you come, we'll do something along those lines. So I think that is something that's been a huge X factor, very underreported, and it's something that we're going to continue to do. But ultimately, if you look around the country, you know, right now there's job openings, huge, a lot of them in Florida, but there's others in other places. So there really is a demand for people that have good skills, and there's never been a better chance to be in the job market, and probably in a number of years, because there's competition and people are having to pay higher wages to attract people that have the skills that are needed. And so if you're someone looking for work, or looking to go in a certain career, that's what you'd want. You wouldn't want it like it was, you know, 10, 12 years ago when the market crashed and people had trouble finding work at all. So we have an opportunity, I think, to really capitalize on that, both in terms of the business footprint, the manufacturing footprint, but also the opportunities for individual Floridians to do well.
Governor, Orange County's mayor has been very critical with the way you've been responding to the surge. He wants to see if you will be promoting things like vaccination, social distancing, mask wearing instead of just the treatment.
I can tell you this. We are not letting anybody impose restrictions or mandates on the people of Florida. That is totally off the table. That is not going to stand. You can make decisions for yourself and your family that you see fit. To impose social distancing mandates with a variant that is airborne, go read the MIT study that they did in 2020, which says if you have an aerosolized airborne pathogen, 3-6 feet, it's obsolete. If you're in an area with something going to be in the air, that's just the reality with Omicron. It is way, way, way more contagious. Now, it's much less pathogenic than Delta. There's no question about that, too. But the notion that we would be imposing any type of mandates or restrictions on people is insane. I cannot believe they're closing schools in these other states. I mean, have we learned nothing throughout this whole time? They're sacrificing these poor, and most of them are poor and low-income kids that are bearing the brunt of this, and they're doing that for no scientific reason. It's all politics, and it's just fundamentally wrong. So we're not doing that. Now, what are we doing? We've been talking about the treatments. We had our treatments cut dramatically. We've had a plan in place for many months that if we did see an increase, we would be able to have sites stood up within 24 hours. We can do that. We've been talking about the need, and fortunately, as of now, HHS has finally agreed to fulfill what we want. And so we haven't gotten it yet, but when we do, literally the next day, you'll have additional sites throughout the state of Florida. And so that's something that's very important. Also, we found that the federal government promised that it was going to send a lot of these at-home rapid tests out to individual Americans who wanted them. They haven't sent anything that we've seen. So we said, okay, what we're going to do, we've acquired some, we're going to acquire more. We're going to start with our long-term care facilities for our elderly, and then we're going to try to focus it on the senior population, because, you know, I don't want somebody that's 75 to have to wait in line for an hour, especially when a lot of the people that are testing are more low-risk people. So we are going to do that, because the federal government hasn't come through with that, and we're happy to do it. I mean, obviously we shouldn't have had to do it because they've made a lot of promises in that regard, but we will. And then we're also going to be putting up some updated testing guidelines, not run dates or requirements. I mean, if you want to go into the drugstore and buy 15 tests for yourself to have, you're free to do that. But what these guidelines are going to point out is what is high-value testing versus what is low-value testing. High-value testing would be if someone is at risk, 75 years old, let's say, has a condition, develops the symptoms, you want a quick test so that you can then treat. If you're somebody who is a very low risk, no health problems, no symptoms, just testing over and over again is not really clinically proven to be very much of a value. Again, you're free to do it, but we're putting that out there so that people understand, because some of the stuff is, I think people are whipped up to be afraid of Omicron. And the fact of the matter is, for the vast majority of people, you know, Omicron is something that's going to be more akin to what you would see with a seasonal flu or even the cold-like symptoms. And so I think, and that data has been replicated. South Africa, Europe, so far in the United States, the northern states are having a lot of Delta still. We have some Delta, but it is mostly Omicron, particularly in South Florida. So the higher percentage of Omicron, the less negative clinical